So anyway, I was explaining to Zerjon, my God, I'm sorry. Zerjon and Nina. All right, Nina, come over here. Okay, they're from Sweden. They're my guests here today. And I was explaining to them, that you see these little new houses here, right? And then versus these older buildings, which are the sole survivors from back in the 60s, that they renovated and stuff like that. But then right down the block, you have, you know, more buildings that are recent. But this was all burned down buildings at one time. So I was explaining to them that the reason why they got burned down, mostly the landlords from back in those days would have them burned down, and the gangs were the ones that burned down the buildings, by the way, just pay off the gang. The landlords that didn't pay the gangs, I'm gonna show you where they used to end up. There's a big water well up there in the park, and they found landlords there that didn't pay the gangs and stuff like that. Can't give you too many details. This all was burned down at one time. Where everywhere you see a new little complex, it was all burned out. This school here, though, they're renovating it now. That's why it's draped. But this is where I attended as a kid. And this was the playground right in here, where Big Nicky, the bully, slapped the crap out of me one time and forced me to learn how to fight. Okay, go ahead, make all that noise. Anyway, we're walking over to St. Mary's Park, and it has rich history. And I'm going to show you what all these places where different things happen. It was a really bad park at one time. Back in the late 60s and early 70s, this park had no light. Now, if you look at it now, you see there's lights all over the park, as you'll see in a minute. But back in those days, there was no lights. So a lot of bad things happened in that park. Murder, robbery, rapes, people found hung by trees, rival gang members found hung by trees. It was like the Wild Wild West, only it's in South Bronx. Now as we walk down here, that white building, you can just barely make it out. That's St. Mary's Recreation Center. That's the building that saved my life as a kid growing up. And I owe them a debt of gratitude, because that's the building that kept me off the streets. That's where I really got heavily into dancing and stuff like that. And let's cross over. St. Mary's Park. It's not like that anymore. Actually, on the weekends here, you'll see a lot of families. Like tomorrow, Saturdays and Sundays, it's full of people. These are the courts where I played on as kids. They've been renovated since then. They were slightly different at one time. But let me take you up here. I'm going to give you a little bit of history. In 1966, when I was 10 years old, a small plane crashed into that rock right up on the mountain there. Let's get a better look from over here. That big rock up there, well, right on the edge of it, a small 4-passenger plane crashed into that rock in 1966. And it was summer day, so the park was full of people. And we think that he crashed into the rock to save lives. They killed themselves though. But if he had made it a little further across the park, because there's a double diamond field on that side, he could have probably landed that small aircraft. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. They died, and they built a shrine that was there for many years, and they painted the edge of the rock red because it was kind of gory when it happened, because there was body parts all over the place. You know, as kids, we were like, "Oh my God!" It was kind of disgusting, and you can imagine.
It's not painted anymore?
And it's not painted anymore. This happened in 1966, so it was many years ago. 40 somewhat years ago. Because I was 10, I'll be 56 in 2 months. So, do the math. 46 years since that happened. But I never forgot that, because I used to live in that building where I showed you previously at the time, when we all came running over here. You know, to see everybody heard the explosion, and everybody in the park was freaked out by it. You know, imagine a plane coming right now out of the sky and crashing into a rock. You know, on the other side, there's a lot of grass, places that he could have landed. Maybe even on this 149th.
So you think it was like a sign and somehow saying something?
I don't know about that, but I know that their families came every year. They were like candles, and people prayed, because a lot of people were affected by that, especially the people that saw it. You know? And like I said, I was only 10 years old, but it affected me as well. You know, it was a very sad thing to see. So as you see, like there's a lot of kids that are playing here. Today is Friday, so these are probably the kids that are still in school and summer camps and stuff like that. But tomorrow this park will be absolutely full of people, a lot of music. By the way, you see that structure right there? That's a well. That's where I was telling you that they would dump the landlords that didn't pay. No. You know, yeah. And I got this phrase from a source that would know because he was actually...
They would dump the landlords who didn't pay?
Yeah, who didn't pay, down that well right there. That's a well. Then this park, like you see, there's lights all over the place now. There's light poles, but back in those days, there were no light poles. No, there was no light poles. So needless to say, this was pitch black at night. And people would hide, and there's a lot of trees that are missing now. You see some of them even knocked down, like that one right there, that they had to cut it off because sometimes when we get bad storms, you know, the trees fall, they break. Like that tree right there has been around for a long time. Like these oaks back here, some of these trees have been here for a couple of 100 years at least. You know, this place used to be a forest at one time before, you know, man came in and started developing and stuff like that. But people would hide in places and they would wait for people to come across the paths. I got chased one time, right coming from the 310.5. I was coming down that path and somebody was hiding behind that tree right over there. And he said, "Come here." He took out a gun and I looked at the gun and I said, and I jetted and I started running. I didn't stop until I got home because I used to live right there on 145th Street. And thank God he didn't shoot me. I had no money anyway. This is back in the early 70s, so it was like, you know, what's he gonna take from me? My life. You know, so I just started running. They'd probably kill you anyway back in those days. You know, and this was like about 5 o'clock in the morning. I was walking home from the 310.5. So, but most of the times I was in good company because what we would do is we would hide, you know, up on some of these trees, behind bushes, and we would wait for people to rob somebody else. This is when I became the warlord of the Imperial Bachelors, which were based in St. Mary's. But we would hide and wait for somebody to commit a crime, and then we'd swoop down on them and beat the living shit out of them.
Was this before you danced or after you danced?
This is during the time, because remember, even when I was a gang member, I danced. You know, so there's some people that say that gang members didn't dance. That's not true. I learned from a gang member, you know, back in 1972. But before that, I danced a little differently. But we always dance. Dancing is in our blood, you know, as Hispanics, you know, especially the Puerto Rican culture is rich with music and dance. You know, a lot of Latin cultures have great, strong traditions. So up here, we'll get more into the flatlines. Behind this area up here is the Double Diamond baseball field. But you'll see those big buildings right behind us here, and those buildings over there. There's a lot of buildings that are up now that weren't there. There were other housing complexes there that all got burned down. So you'll see a lot of new stuff around here. Most of those buildings are all new because this place was devastation back in the mid-70s, early 80s. It was really bad. And I'm sure that a lot of you have seen that footage when you Google the South Bronx in the 1970s and 80s. You'll see the devastation. But that building there, St. Mary's, is really what saved my life because from there is where I got.
Is that a youth center?
It's a community center, but it has a swimming pool. It has basketball courts. It has karate classes, boxing. They eliminated the boxing now, but look at this guy driving backwards. Hey, Rongo, you're going the wrong way, buddy. Yeah, so anyway, this is where I come to teach sometimes because it's pretty flat, you know. But most of the times I'll use the center right across the street over there on 146th Street. I used to rehearse here in St. Mary's, but now I go over there because they give me a room anytime I want it. But this is where I do the teach the children thing. So this is it. Let's walk across actually. Let's actually come through. Well, let's go straight across here. Right here, they do concerts in the summertime now, and they put up a big stage out there, and this whole area gets full of people.
Is it like tomorrow? No.
They have one coming up. They might have one tomorrow. I gotta check the calendar.
What was it tomorrow?
There's like a couple of them, like 2 or 3 of them every week, and it gets full. They do stuff for the kids, and they do stuff for the adults as well, and it gets full. You know, I took some pictures last week when I was here. They had at the El Canario, Jose Alberto El Canario.
No.
Yeah, he was here last week. Yeah, last week he was here, and they called, you know, summer jams, and this whole area was jam-packed of people. I came, but my mom ended up in the hospital that day, so I didn't stay long. I stood for like maybe 12 minutes, something like 12, 15 minutes, because I had promised some friends to drop by, but... Yeah,
this one you can only see in the Bronx. People going backwards.
Yeah. My brother used to do that.
New dance style called going backwards.
But at any rate, this is where I come to practice to dance, because right here it has a nice smooth floor, so you can do turns. You know, it's pretty smooth.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a little tilted.
Yeah.
So sometimes you go off to the side. But it's a pretty good place to come, and it's outdoors, and I love the outdoors anyway. So you know, it's pretty cool. Let's go on to the other side. Hey, cut that for a few.